Good morning, everybody. Letting you know that closed captioning is available on the desktop version of Teams. To enable closed captioning, click the three dots at the top of the window and click Turn on Live Captions. Unfortunately, closed captioning is not available on the web browser version of Teams. Just going to put that in the chat. Maybe. Yep, there we go. I am also going to put the agenda in the chat. And it is 8:33 and we will call to order. I'll do roll call. Let somebody in. Okay. Aron Arteaga.
Present.
Anna Belikova.
Late.
Okay. Alina DeGrado.
Present.
Mitch Hinkey.
Present.
Montavious Jones. Kathleen Minnick.
Present.
Ben Teal.
Present.
Barry Weber.
Present.
Stephen Owen.
Here.
And then we have the public safety representative and DCD representative are both vacant. All right.
So we can get started. I guess the first is the approval of last month's minutes. If anybody got a chance to take a look? Have any corrections or otherwise? Otherwise, I'll move to approve them. Need a second?
I can second.
Thank you. And the first item on the agenda is new bus bike lanes. I think Wisconsin Avenue is the only place that it affects now, but I think there was some clarity that we were looking for in terms of what was allowed and what to expect from bus drivers, et cetera. I see that we have somebody from MCTS. I'll hand it off to you, I guess.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and apologies that I could not be in person. I'm at our offices at 17th and Walnut. I have another meeting at 9, but there is a lot of interest here at MCTS for us to perhaps become a part of this, because from a transit standpoint, Mike's heard me say this before, all our bus riders are pedestrians. So it's pedestrians, bikes, and they all have access to the bus. And then with the addition of the East-West BRT, which is now branded the Connect One, we have a unique situation where we actually have bus-only lanes, but the bikes are also very much welcome to be a part of that. And I guess I'll give you kind of like a quick overview. I don't want to take too much time because it's the questions that we really want to work through on this. But I just say all this because intermodal, the bus and BRT and the transit lanes, we want to be very much a part of that. So with that in mind, let me just share for those that may not be familiar. So the dedicated lanes are shown here on this map. Anything in gold. And kudos again to City of Milwaukee and leadership to make this happen, because right now our 50% dedicated lanes is all on the City of Milwaukee side. So basically downtown from Van Buren to Water Street, then we kind of skip West Town, and then we're back at it again from 9th out to Hawley, and then a tiny little stretch on Hawley. So that's where we have our brand new dedicated BRT lanes. And so with respect respect to like bikes being able to use them as well. So in kind of our targeted outreach and when we've met with DPW in the past and also MPD and, you know, the aldermanic districts that this touches, you know, we did our best to, you know, advocate that bikes are indeed welcome to use these lanes as well. And we've worked with multimodal to have appropriate signage with that. So with that, the signage has not been completed as of yet. So what you see out there today, we're going through a punch list phase of our construction project. We've been up and running since June, right? But we still have an ongoing punch list, and the signs are part of that. So the striping is part of what makes the dedicated lanes dedicated, but it's also very much the signage that accompanies that. And with that, you'll see more signs that say bus, bike, right turn only. And we hope that that helps to kind of clarify that from the cyclist's perspective when you're down there using the lanes. Another question that came from this group via Kate and that kind of bullet point list was, is there an ordinance for this? And yes, there is. And kind of the beauty of the ordinance, well, I think it's an opportunity to use it to basically get the most out of it, because it's pretty vague. And the ordinance is this: it's a City of Milwaukee ordinance. It's in the traffic code 101-21.5. It talks about the designation of bike lanes and transit lanes, and it always refers to them together. So I would say that that makes it pretty clear that, you know, the transit lanes, it's always a both and. So then it's up to, you know, the county side, and I'm hoping, you know, through our partnership with the city, is how do we make that more clear from a public perspective, you know, to let cyclists know that, yes, this is something that is available to you. And that's kind of the moment where we are now. I think there's a lot more outreach we can do and more materials we can provide. With that, I don't want to make it sound like we don't have any materials out there, and I'll put some things in the chat. On our own Ride MCTS website, we do have a PDF and also a video that is available that kind of says which modes and how they should interact with the bus lane. And there is a targeted section on bikes, and it says very much like cyclists are welcome. So I'll share that in the chat momentarily, but you know, from our own outreach kind of standpoint, I think there is a way that we can make it clearer on our website and perhaps share those materials with you so that, you know, if there's a place that you can like redirect towards our page, or you can have the same material on your pages at DPW, I think that just helps get the word out there. And I'll pause there because that was a whole lot of information, and I feel like I've been talking too much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I know Kathleen was the one that kind of initiated it, and I wanted to give her an opportunity to ask any questions or clarify.
It's very good to know that there will be more signage out there and that you're still in the process. But I'm wondering why there even signs were put up to begin with, why there's a two-step process. Because right now, most of the signs say, you know, buses only in this lane, right buses and right turn. Why, I'm just wondering why the trouble putting those signs up, and then are we going to replace those with the ones that include bike, and why we don't, as a city, put the ones we want up to begin with?
Certainly. So here's some insider trading for you. our contractor, they worked off an outdated plan set. So we had made revisions to the sign and striping plan, and then they fabricated the original plans. So hence, that's why it became a two-step process. And absolutely right. Ideally, it would have been done right the first time.
Okay, that's very good to know. It's good to know it's in process. Do you have a kind of a timeline on when it will be completed?
We're absolutely targeting, I mean, we're already in this fall. I would love to say by end of November, because that's kind of, when contractors kind of take their winter shutdown and trying to corral them. They're a larger firm, so they're working like from job site to job site. So it's a matter of us keeping on them to make sure that they adhere to their contract obligations.
Okay, I think that answers pretty much my questions. It's good to know. And then I was just thinking, and any future projects like this, I think there's talk of, was it 35th Street or something, of having similar thing. I was thinking it might be good to have something, have this from the beginning, the signage that indicates the bicyclists may use it.
Certainly. So I'd love to do one on 35th, but our next one is going to be 27th Street. Very busy corridor. We're looking at from Bayshore up in Glendale all the way down to IKEA in Oak Creek, neighboring Franklin. So very big corridor. And as far as how bikes will be integrated into that, we're very early stages right now, which means that we have a feasibility study with a lot of conceptual ideas in there. And some of those ideas include not only bike lanes in certain sections, but also how can we have some kind of vertical separation to add more protection to those that are cycling. And then because this is early days, we are working with Mike and Kate, and also city engineer Kevin Muse and Gerald, to see like how can we maximize this, because the challenge is always going to be right of way. Like the road is the road, and our budget isn't to like rebuild a road. It's to designate the space that's already there. So we're trying to work through creative solutions with Milwaukee DPW to see how we can always find the both and to your point, do it from the outset so that it's not a punch list item.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if anybody else has other questions.
Hey, David, I think Kathy might have been referencing the 35th Street project that Milwaukee County DOT was awarded. I don't know if you're aware of that, Dave. I know we're aware of it. We haven't been involved in any conversations, but I think that's probably what Kathy was referencing.
Oh, certainly. So there is a separate, and that's more of there are some bus lanes included in that. And I'm sorry, my main tool in my toolbox right now is BRT. So I tend to think in terms of BRT. But yes, in tandem with MCTS, our parent company at the county is trying to do something on 35th Street for a shorter stretch. And I don't have all the details on that. But I am happy to share the contacts of those who are involved, and maybe they could, reach out to this group and provide an update.
Yeah, that'd be great. I see that Ben has his hand raised. Ben?
Hi, yeah, thanks. Sorry, just unmuting myself. Thanks, David, for your presentation and for this information. I definitely agree that it's important that bicyclists and drivers know that they can use these lanes. But I'm sure there are a lot of folks who are a little scared about sharing a lane with a bus. I've actually almost been hit by some bus drivers when I'm on a bike in a basic striped bike lane. And as a bus rider, if I sit in the back right corner, so the passenger side. I can often look straight down a basic bike lane, which means the driver must be half in and half out of it. I'm wondering if you can share anything about the training that the drivers receive that would ease any concerns that anyone has about sharing a lane with a bus.
Certainly. So, I mean, we have a very rigorous training program from the outset when drivers are hired for the first time. It's about a 5-week process, and that includes them getting their CDL and, of course, learning the rules of the road, how to operate, and you know, interacting with bicycle lanes is part of that. And they are reminded frequently that yes, it's the law. Don't drive in the bike lane, and you're supposed to give at least 3 feet of clearance whenever you're overtaking a bike. With that said, with the 700 drivers that we have within our system currently, these are people, good moments and some bad moments, right? And I think the best way we can keep at it is, if you see a specific instance, you know, I can provide a customer service number to, like, whenever a complaint or something like that is lodged, it gives us an opportunity to talk to that specific driver and treat it as a teachable moment, to re-instruct, because you might have anywhere from someone that's only been in the seat for like 6 months to someone who's been here 27 years and they're just waiting for retirement, So how do we enforce the rules are good, but enforcement and re-instruction is always the tools that we have to deal with on the day-to-day.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that feedback, and continual training is part of what you do. That's great.
And thanks I'm sorry if we've spooked you at all, because I've been in those bike lanes too. And I've had to write down a couple of bus numbers myself to be like, hey, can you talk to that guy? Because I got to get back up now.
That basically amounts to my experiences as well. But I know from experience, and I can understand there are a lot of narrow roadways in the county. We all have to share the space somehow. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Did any other committee members have questions? I guess I had one less important question, is sometimes bus drivers will honk when you're in the bus lane, or sometimes not even, but it can be kind of startling sometimes. And I don't know if that's just I assume it's trying to be friendly, but it can be startling.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that feedback, because first off, no, there's not a policy like our drivers. It's like not part of their training. So when it does happen, it is very much like their own initiative. But perhaps like we need a reminder to be like, maybe we need a policy that says do not honk. It's the intent is friendly, but well, nothing wakes you up faster, right?
Yes.
So,
there may be some that do appreciate it. That's just, I was curious if there was a policy one way or another.
no policy, but I'll check with our training guys, because yeah, we don't want to scare anyone.
Cool, I appreciate that. I think unless there's any other questions from the committee, we appreciate your time and knowledge.
Well, thanks all. Kate, I'll send a follow-up email to you with some links and some materials that you can share. And then, as opportunities come up, we'd love to see if there's a chance for MCTS to maybe become a part of this group, even if it's only as a listening member. So more to come.
Thank you. Thanks. So the next item on the agenda is an update on the daylighting policy.
Yeah, I'm glad to have Kathy there in the room as well. Stephen and I met last Friday to discuss sort of how we can move forward with drafting some language around the encouragement of daylighting at intersections. And I think we really needed Kathy in the room. And so luckily, Kathy and I were able to meet yesterday, and I was able to pick her brain about really like, you know, the different options we have in front of us as far as like ordinance language versus a resolution. And so I think one thing that would be good to have discussion around and get feedback from the group on is like whether we think, I guess, feasibility wise, or maybe, you know, impact wise, like, do we want to move in the direction of an ordinance or a resolution? I think in talking with Kathy yesterday, just in sort of respecting capacity of DPW and like the finite, you know, resources that there are, like a resolution might be more feasible, both like cost and capacity wise. There certainly is precedence for that kind of resolution with the complete streets resolution that was already passed. And I think it's very doable to, you know, construct a body of like justification with like the whereas statements. Kathy even already started kind of drafting out some of those whereas statements. So that's really great. I think the biggest question that I have in sort of like moving this along is if we go the direction of drafting a resolution, I think we need to have some better sense of like where we would want to see which intersections we would want to prioritize. And I think coming up with those priority criteria is just very difficult because we don't have like a database of like where parking restrictions currently exist. We can get a list of those restrictions. We could potentially like geocode that list, which would show like potentially gaps and then overlap them with the high injury network or school zones, that kind of thing. But I think, yeah, like I would love to hear what people think about, you know, if we move in the direction of a resolution that sort of proactively directs DPW to implement these parking restrictions in certain areas, like what do we think is most important? We can share. I intended to have a few slides that like better helped us have discussion around this, and it's just been a little crazy at work, so I didn't get around to it. But like if we went the direction of school zones, like would we do a quarter mile, half a mile, look at the intersections that are around that? Would we look at the high injury network? We could standardize it for paving jobs. I think the difficulty for me in thinking about this is like, I guess, yeah, how many paving jobs are we doing a year? Like what is that cost? Yeah, just like knowing the scale of each of these options is difficult without like geocoded data. Kathy, would you add anything?
Just, I really do think that a resolution is the way to go at this point. Putting together an ordinance that would impact the entire city and that we have the ability to implement and enforce, I think is going to be really problematic. I think a resolution directing DPW to either look into something or to, to implement this in a progressive manner, I think is the more practical way to go about it. Coming up with the criteria is, I think you just kind of need to pick something and look at it, pick a set of data and then figure out if that makes sense or not. And, it's going to be kind of a trial and error sort of thing. And it's probably going to be time intensive and data intensive, which is one of the reasons that we really haven't done that so far. I mean, because we do have a list of where all the extended parking restrictions exist, but they're not in a metadata. It's not even in usable format. And it's time intensive and labor intensive to put it in a usable format. But that could be, if that's a project that the committee wanted to take on, that could be something that would be a benefit to the city overall, because then the city could use that data to, to inform some of its other choices.
Yeah, so I guess like in thinking about what that could look like for our policy group, because those ordinances are passed currently on a one-off basis, as I looked at them, it basically like tells the cross streets. So it would be like the work of whoever, myself or other folks in the policy group, would basically like get the data to a point that it could be geocoded and put into a map so that we could see. Is that what you're thinking, Kathy?
I mean, that would be the next practical step if that's the direction we want to go. Yeah.
Do we need to enumerate specific intersections? Or is the resolution that's focused on prioritizing based on high injury network or opportunities based on construction sufficient to start?
Well, the point of knowing where everything is now is, because if you say something like you're going to direct DPW to implement these extended parking restrictions, and you're going to say around schools, that's what you think is a priority. It may be that those already exist, but we don't know that. So it would be kind of a redundant sort of thing to, until you really know where they exist, it's hard to know how to prioritize what's left.
Got it. Yeah. Jessica has her hand up. Is it on? Does any committee member have anything they want to add at this point? Otherwise, Jessica, please, if you have something to share, that'd be great.
Yeah, good morning. And I apologize. I joined late, so I missed the very beginning of this conversation. But I'm curious about the nexus of restricting parking and improving safety.
You're kind of quiet.
I'll chat my question. I'm sorry.
We have another question in the chat. Get it up here. Will the public have an opportunity to comment on adoption of the proposed parking resolution?
It would be similar to any resolution.
Right, again, it would appear either before Public Works or Public Safety, and the public would have, the ability to comment at that point.
Then not in this meeting.
No, I mean, we don't really have a specific proposal, I guess, at this point. I guess I would leave it to the policy group to, if you wanted to work with them, or I don't know.
Thoughts right now.
Yeah, Becky, if you have something specific right now,
Yeah.
please share.
Yes, so this is Becky Rabatin, and since oh gosh, I want to say December of 2021 through 2000 through all of 2020 through 22 and early of 2023, there has been an informal accessible on-street parking task force that it was addressing concerns specific to providing accessible on-street parking. And I don't know if there's been any discussion with DPW about that. There have been folks such as Chad Chrisbaum, James Washington's been involved in those, and Holly Rudenbeck. We haven't met since I left the city. We're hoping to have another meeting soon. We've been asking to have a meetings since then. There was an city attorney's opinion that DPW requested on safety concerns in providing accessible on-street parking. but the big concern now is that the U.S. Access Board has approved PROAG. It specifically addresses providing accessible on-street parking spaces for metered and marked parking spaces. So I didn't know if that was included as part of this.
So far, that really hasn't been part of our discussion. To me, the way it seems like this might affect that would be the loss of a parking space near an intersection that may currently be accessible. But we haven't really, that hasn't an issue that's been on our radar with respect to the daylighting of intersections.
Can I ask who was just speaking? I can't see who that was.
It's Kathy Brangos.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Kathy Brangos.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. All right. So that hasn't been brought up. Okay.
Well-
Thank you.
So Jessica's comment in the chat was that there is a risk that there is parking that is underused and it makes the street wider and faster, reducing safety. And then she would love to discuss more with the group to make sure there are not unintended negative safety impacts, which I think is a good point. But broadly, I think the resolution makes sense as a goal. Is there anything else? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing that I would to address, at least part of Jessica's comment, is that we've also discussed like putting something in place of the parking, like maybe some of the temporary measures like planters or bollards or bike parking, things like that, that would sort of still allow for visibility, improve visibility, but could maybe address some of the like street widening, Milwaukee slide issues.
Go ahead.
When is this resolution going to the Public Works Committee?
There is not a resolution yet, just so we're clear.
Oh.
We're trying to decide what we're coming up for a resolution. And the whole point of this is to, again, daylight the intersection so that we have clear sight lines and people aren't constantly in the city going straight.
Again, can I ask who is speaking?
Something like that. Steve Owen.
Thank you.
And yeah, so the point of this is to just make sure that try to get people to stop going through stop signs because they can't see around the corner. And so if we get rid of that extra parking spot around there, then they can see around the corner and they don't have to roll through the intersection, which is what we do here in Milwaukee and basically everywhere. But that's all we're trying to get rid of with this part of this resolution. So.
And from an accessibility point of perspective, I don't want accessibility to be forgotten as part of that. I meant Elena just mentioned about bollards and that. I think the spacing of those bollards to allow the adequate space for a mobility device user to be able to safely get to a curb ramp needs to be taken into consideration. I know it's probably early in the games, being that you're just looking at developing this resolution, but I really would like you to hear from the disabled community because this is something they've been very vocal about. And I really think that you need to hear from those individuals that are part of the informal accessible on-street parking task force.
So Becky, are you clear? This is Mike Anston. Are you clear on what daylighting, what that refers to? Or do you need, that's a kind of a weird term.
I imagine it would be, and I do not know what you would define it as, but I would think from kind of like in a zoning perspective and vision triangles and sight lines is what I would feel that my definition would be.
Yeah, so currently it's, the city ordinance is 15 feet. You're not allowed to park within 15 feet of a crosswalk. And the issue, and this is kind of happening throughout the country, right, is with larger vehicles, it's harder to see people, especially shorter people, children, people in wheelchairs as they're trying to cross the street because of the larger vehicles and also people encroaching within that 15 feet. So it's not, they're still, that first parking space, wherever it may be, will very well still be available for accessible parking, or on the far side of an intersection as well. Perhaps even more appropriate would be available and free for accessible parking. So I don't want to pick this like accessibility versus pedestrian safety here. I think we see it as like a huge pedestrian safety benefit, especially for people with disabilities. So I've been, let's just have carry the conversation. I think maybe the group can meet with you and folks, but I want to make sure that we're all partners on this, not going against one another, because I see a huge benefit here for people with disabilities and people of all abilities.
Yeah, we want that. It's just that there's been this other group meeting, and I think there's been disconnect. I think that we should have maybe a separate discussion so that, if the disabled community hears about this later and they may have concerns, it's just like, let's just cut it off before that even happens, is where I'm coming from.
Yep. All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other committee members have questions or comments? Or Alina, did you have anything else? Otherwise, it sounds like it's moving along. Sounds good to me. I guess we can move on to the next agenda item, which is a recommendation letter that we drafted for the I-43 Beecher interchange, which is in the very early stages of being redesigned. And I think, it's pulling it up. The gist is the city has installed or built raised bike lanes to the east as part of the Michaels development, I believe. And MMSD underneath the freeway is building green infrastructure, but also 2 bike paths, one on the north side and one on the south side. And so the reconfiguration or rebuilding of the interchange is an opportunity to connect those two, I think, and build a safe path from one side of the freeway to the other, which we don't often have in the city. And so this is a recommendation to WISDOT. I think they've been talking with the city a little bit on this project. Mike is nodding in agreement. So this is just a letter from us to make that explicit recommendation so that we don't have 2 good but disconnected pieces of infrastructure. And hopefully bring them together with this project. Anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be more than happy. Committee members or otherwise.
Do we have any
Yes,
maps
sir.
or renderings yet of this area?
That's what I was gonna ask. Is there a drawing out there of what they, no, I mean,
No, they have a couple lines of,
sorry, Steven.
no, it's fine.
they have a few lines of description.
Okay.
Getting rid of the scissor interchange,
Death
and frontage road stuff. But no explicit call out for protected infrastructure or anything like that. No visuals, as far as I'm aware.
What about the project area? Do we know the boundaries of these paths that MMSD has jurisdiction over? Is it safe to assume that it's between 4th and 5th Streets?
For MMSD, I think theirs is only underneath
Yeah, they were gonna like essentially build a
Yeah.
rain garden underneath that freeway there. Where it's still raised up and they don't have any fill under it.
Yeah, so I think it's, yeah, immediately underneath the freeway. I don't know. They said they'll be building it this year, so we'll hopefully see. But I'm not sure exactly.
Sir, I thought y'all had more info on this. I just saw that on the agenda. I didn't look into it, but I think if you want more info, there's definitely more info out there.
That would be great.
It's not me, I've been James Schumacher, because he's the project manager.
Yeah,
And,
I emailed them.
okay, so if you want to get more info, I'd perhaps the next meeting you could have a presentation.
Sure. Could have like some early.
I've seen like somewhat preliminary designs, but it's been several meetings. I don't know exactly where they're at in the process, but yeah, there's definitely.
So do you think it's worth holding and making a recommendation at this point until we talk to them, or?
It's just a recommendation, right?
Yeah, there's nothing.
I don't think.
Okay. Then, I mean, yeah, I think it would be great.
And all of it, I don't remember what they've done yet or not. I know this was an MSD project as well, so.
They have their website. That's the only thing I've seen that has a brief description. I would like to send this letter out, get our stance early, out there early and explicit, kind of in what we'd like to see. You know, it's not a city project necessarily, but I would entertain a motion to approve.
I will motion to approve.
Thank you, Barry. Need a second as well.
I will motion to approve.
Thank you. So I will send this out to WISDOT and the other people mentioned at the top. And we'll have them, the WISDOT folks per person, talk about the project next month.
Just taking those extra few seconds to see if anyone has to unmute or something.
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions or comments, happy to make changes before we send it out. Otherwise, we can move on to the next item, which is the city is seeking a grant from the federal government to the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Grant for the 6th Street corridor for 6th Street. It would be like reconstruction, rebuild, whole thing, as I understand it. And so they asked, it's helpful as part of grants apparently to have support of community groups or groups like ours. And so DPW asked if we would support it. And this plan was, I think, at least initially described somewhat in the Reconnecting downtown, the downtown plan 2040.
So this is 6th Street where?
Says north to National.
North to National. Oh.
Is Mary Sizemore on the call?
I see.
Yeah.
I saw her join.
Yeah, Mary can answer any questions.
Hi, everyone. Yes, North to National. Happy to answer any other questions as well.
I do have a note. Secretary Buttigieg's name is misspelled there. Buttigieg.
Thank you. I will make sure that it is also spelled correctly on the other letters.
He's probably used to it, you know. Just dear Mayor, yeah.
Yeah.
People. I guess it sounds the grant, I assume, is still being worked on and stuff. So I don't have any questions.
Mary, I don't know if you heard Mitch's question or comment about the reconstruction.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I guess just to give some background on, what we're envisioning at this point for this project. So in terms of reconstruction, we would be, reconstructing the corridor except for the segment between Clybourne, and let me make sure I get my boundaries correct. Clybourne and the roundabout, right there, and the entrance to Walker's Point. That section just has a lot of structures, where reconstruction just becomes a really big project. So we're looking to, keeping in mind all the different contexts that occur, throughout the corridor, implement road diets where possible, provide protected infrastructure for biking, walking, and transit, wherever possible. This is a very kind of conceptual stage that we're in at this moment, since we're just applying for the grant, hoping that we win. And from there, plans will get more defined, and we'll definitely keep you on the loop. But yeah, just really wanted to make sure that this connection, throughout our downtown, to our northern neighborhoods, north of the downtown core, down to Walker's Point and the upcoming project on National Avenue. Just trying to make sure all of those are connected, to all the jobs and entertainment in downtown, as well as the intermodal station.
Well, thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments on the project, or potential support of the project?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion from Barry to approve our support. I would need a second as well.
Second, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. So we will share this letter with, or send it to DPW, who will, just gets included in the grant application or something. Awesome. This would be a great project. Yeah, I hope we can get the grant.
Just one other thing that you mentioned, the downtown plan, it's also called out in the reconnecting hillside Hackham plan. So that's another plan that we're referencing.
Okay, I was not aware of that. So the next item on the agenda is the Hank Aaron State Trail. This is from Barry primarily.
Yeah, so I can give you all some updates on some of those other Hank Aaron connections and such that we've brought to the group in the last few months. Kathy has helped to guide me towards contacting Alderman Bauman to scheduling a file with DPW. I reached out to Alderman Bauman a few days ago, and I know that that is in the works, last I've heard, so we're just waiting to hear more. But to review, those proposals and those recommendations were for improving the crossings at 25th and Canal and 32nd and Canal, and then also another separate request to improve signage on 37th in the Silver City area, and then also 32nd Street in Merrill Park. But there was one trail crossing that was not in the initial recommendations because I mistakenly thought it was in West Dallas's city boundaries, and Ben helpfully pointed out to me that this is still very much in the city boundaries, and that's at 76th Street. And for anyone who's ridden the trail right around there, it's 76 is probably the busiest cross street, I would guess, of the entire trail, I'm thinking. And it is a very, very narrow strip. I put a picture of my bike just parked at it. And yeah, there it is. And, it was me trying to hold my bike up while taking a picture, certainly. But yeah, even for me by myself, and this is just on a hot day when not too many others are on the trail, but my bike was even kind of poking out. And I'm sure anyone who's ridden that knows that area too, and how that can be. I was taking a school group on it, and they were really struggling to try to cross the street safely there. So I just wanted to let the group know that I also wanted to add this to our file with DPW and see if there's any potential for possible improvements there to explore, whether it be seeing if there's a possibility of widening that strip or even raising the crosswalk or anything else that could be feasible. So with the group's endorsement, I can just add that to the file.
Makes sense to me. Not a fan of that crossing.
Yeah. Could be better. And that fellow in the picture there was selling water that day. It was a really hot day and he was barely able to get his cooler on there, you know, so. We'd appreciate it too.
Selling stuff from a meeting.
I think there's an ordinance against selling stuff in Canadian.
Fair, that, strike my comments from the record.
Did any?
I just want to point out, I think we should mention, if you know, Barry had this much trouble making his average sized bike fit on this, cargo bikes definitely would not fit on this crossing, and I can think of a few types of wheelchairs that would have trouble too. May not be clear from this photo, but Barry, I'm really glad that you took this photo and included it.
Yeah, it's considerably narrower. I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but it's considerably narrower than a lot of the other median strips on the trail crossings, for sure.
Were there any other comments or questions from committee members or the public?
Did Alderman Bauman say when he was going to schedule this or no?
I reached out, I mean, it was also Axe who had been in touch with me on some of it, Alderman Bauman's assistant, and I can look that up. I mean, I don't have to answer that right this second.
No, I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, I heard it was on the docket or something, probably later in the month. Well, obviously.
So probably this cycle. Okay.
I'm hoping. Yeah, let me see. Anyway, yeah.
Rochelle?
Hi, thanks. Barry knows me.
Sorry, one before Rochelle, before you guys want to answer Kathy's question, because I just found it.
Sure.
Alderman Bauman did let me know this, my bad. It was part of a huge email. I sent him about other stuff too. He says it's been scheduled for Wednesday, September 27th. So in 2 weeks, roughly. That is all.
So if I could have a second, Barry, thanks for bringing up this intersection. I volunteered when the same school did an event, and that intersection was really concerning. So as you look at things and bring it forward, maybe pointing out simply that traffic coming from the south, going to the north, the roadway opens up maybe from 1 lane to 2, really creating increased speed, vehicle speed right before that crossing. So maybe just looking at this potential improvements in a larger context. If there were, so to elaborate on that, if there were something to do like a wider boulevard crossing, if that could actually maybe impede some of the widened lanes as well. Does that make sense?
So to just note that from the south, it opens up to 2 lanes, just essentially right before. And how that can also affect just again, what happens with that crossing. That's a really good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll add that to my notes here. So everybody knows, just make a note of that part. So I know that is right, and Ben helped me out here. I know that's right on that cusp. It's like almost a block or 2 south. I feel it's like that's where it becomes West Dallas. So that just maybe more of getting them involved too.
Hearing no other comments.
Oh,
I'll-
wait, I do have one more comment.
Yeah.
You had said that there was some potential funding available for this, that you, was it West Town or somebody?
That was for the signage
Over the
project.
Is that gonna be part of the communication file?
I put it in, like, for the little packet I typed up for recommended signage. I did add Near West Side Partners as a potential partner.
Because you might want to reach out to them and make sure that they know that it's been scheduled, that maybe they might want to speak up for their support. And, put this out to, maybe the entire committee so that if anybody has other information to add or, so that that can all become part of the public record.
With that, there aren't any other comments or questions. I will move to approve Barry's amendment to his file with Alderman Bauman.
Someone should second who's not me.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you allowed to second your own, or can you initiate your own?
Theoretically, the chair really shouldn't be making any motions, and you should not, you really shouldn't be moving or seconding your own.
Oh, boy.
Good to know. Noted for the future. All right, the last item we have is work groups. I assume the policy work group was,
You heard everything.
yeah, I was gonna say it's daylighting, and targeted improvements. We didn't meet this month. There was something others wanted to add on targeted improvements.
I mean, I know a big one was just wanting to discuss things with MCTS, which we did at this meeting,
Mhm.
so.
What's the other one? Projects? The projects subcommittee meet? Discuss anything?
No.
All right. Is there anything on subcommittees that we wanted to discuss? Otherwise, I'm good to move on to new business. The two items that I have are, one is the Beecher Street interchange. See if we can have someone from WSDOT here to speak about it. The other one is, there was another grant that was seeking our support for the 30th Street Trail. So I would like us, see if we can come up with a recommendation, potentially.
To note though, that grant, and I believe just like this one that Mary's been working on, I believe it must be submitted by next Friday.
The 30th Street one?
Like that's, because that also goes to Secretary Buttigieg.
Got it.
So I don't know if we want to look in anything that would be a group email, or if we can.
Not sure. I didn't know the timeline on that.
Are there any rules on that to
On-
send the group a proposed letter?
Well, I don't think we can meet without announcing it.
Yeah,
ahead of
it
time.
would be like, let's say someone drafted a letter, Kate could send it out to the entire committee. And as long as each of you responded just to Kate with your feedback or your approval or not, you haven't violated the open meetings. If you start a big group email, where you hit reply all, then it becomes a meeting and you're in violation of the open meetings thing. But yeah, as long as you just reply to Kate or whoever originates the email, you're not violating the walking forum thing.
So we just BCC everyone. Then they can't reply all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have to think about that. I don't know if that just hiding who you're talking to counts. I mean, that.
Yeah, but no one would be able to
So we
find all of the people too. Yeah.
We could officially endorse the grant proposal letter through that method too. We don't have to meet.
I would think, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then let's plan on trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as the group is comfortable with that,
Yes.
you know, as a group, you can say, no, we're not gonna do that. Or as a group, you can say, yes, we think that that's a legitimate way for us to, to
Yeah.
approach something.
I guess we should probably send out any of the information about what it's for to begin with.
Mhm. Yeah, Assemblyman Evan Goike is the person who's really spearheading this. And has been a huge ally of this project, the 30th Street Corridor redevelopment. For those who don't know, it'd be a bike trail that connects Family Field area of the Hank Aaron State Trail to Havenwood State Forest, giving us a trail on Milwaukee's north side that follows the railway there.
I think this is also a reconnecting communities and neighborhoods grant.
Yeah. So, yeah, I suppose everyone, like, I can certainly help to draft something and be in touch with Kate. And I guess everyone keep checking your emails.
Yeah, I guess would anybody be opposed to taking action on that via email? Otherwise, that sounds good to me. Is there any other new business or stuff we wanted to discuss? Did we want to plan on talking about daylighting again next month?
I think we can give another update next month.
Plan on that then. That was all I had. If anybody else has suggestions for business to discuss next month, please speak up. Outside of that, I think we can move to news and events to share. There's another critical mass ride, but this month it's 2 weeks away because we have 5 Fridays. So it's September 29th at 6 p.m. We'll leave from Red Arrow Park at 6 p.m.
Hope to see everybody tonight at the Bike Fed birthday party.
That's at Wheel and Sprocket in Bayview.
Mary's got some.
Mary?
Hi, thanks. Just to update on some Active Streets events coming up. Tomorrow we've got yoga on the Pierce Active Street on the 2500 block of Pierce. Or I'm sorry, it is Zumba, not yoga. Zumba at 8:45 a.m. tomorrow. So start your day right on the Pierce Active Street. And then the Grant Boulevard Active Street is also holding an event tomorrow in the afternoon starting at 2 o'clock and kind of running through the afternoon on the 2500 block of Grant Boulevard. And there's a number of other active streets events, mostly on Pierce Street. Zumba again next Saturday at 8:45 on the 2300 block of Pierce Street. And I was trying to find all the other ones really quickly, but those are the main upcoming ones.
Cool, thank you. Any other fun events?
On Sunday, the 24th of that, at Harbor Fest, the Kinnickinnick River Trail Connections project team will be there with our final recommended design for that project. And then Bubbler will also be there, I think, and we'll be doing a demonstration protected bike lane. So come check out the recommended designs and enjoy Harbor Fest and release a baby sturgeon if you would like.
November 24th is Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
Release a baby sturgeon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they do that every year.
yeah,
Oh,
it's great.
Just one.
Well, each person.
You can
Oh,
more, maybe do more. Yeah, but I've heard that there's not as many baby sturgeons, so if you want to do that, get in there early. There's also the final soul roll, that is connected to the 30th Street corridor trail project that is on the Saturday before that, the 23rd, starting at Merrill Park, I believe at 10 a.m.
and I have one too. Saturday, October 7th. From 9 a.m. to noon, the school I work for, Highland Community School, will be having their annual Bike Walk Eat fundraiser. And I mean, generally it's the people who take part in it are, of course, families from our school. But I believe others can still register, and especially I think bike allies and such would be certainly welcome. But the school website has more information, but it's there's a walking loop on the Hank Aaron Trail. There's a 5-mile and a 10-mile biking loop, and there's just food, music, and such. And it's just a great event that we've had every year as a fundraiser for the school, and also just getting people out on the trail. That's October 7th, and the school website has more info. I'm looking at it now.
Other events? And the fair motion to adjourn.
Of course.
I'm doubting if removing it now. Thanks, everybody. There's no other events to share. Have a great weekend. I'll motion to adjourn. I think we still need a second for that.
Come on, someone new. Like, get your name on the minutes.
Second.
All right.
Thank you, Ben. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Feel free to correct me immediately whenever.